of experiencednanny.com, a place where parents, nannies, and childcare professionals in general come to get their childcare advice. So join me for our weekly Candid conversation. Welcome to this session of Candid Conversations. Today we are chatting with Maddie McLeod about yacht travel and children. So without further ado, let me introduce Maddie. Welcome, Maddie. Why don't you start by telling us about your background and how you got started working on yachts?
And I started working on yachts when I was 22. I had recently left college and was working in Chicago, and I found that office life wasn't suiting what I was looking for. And I actually had a family member pick up a book in Barnes & Noble, and it was the Introduction to Being a Yacht Stewardess. And I read the book cover to cover and put in my 2 weeks notice at my job and moved down to Fort Lauderdale, Florida, took a few training courses and said, I'll be here for about 9 months to a year. And it turned into a really full career of many great experiences.
Fantastic. So about your training, can I just ask a question about what do they teach you how to be invisible? Because obviously in the positions that you've had and the positions that I've had as a nanny, we often have to be invisible, although we have to be there.
So that definitely is more taught once you're on board the yachts themselves. The training that we do ahead of time is a lot of safety based, which is great. It gets you your foot in the door and the qualifications. But I think it definitely, once you get on board your first yacht, you learn the etiquette of what's expected of you, what the guests are expecting from you. And it certainly varies from program to program, how much they want to see you and how much they don't want to see you. And it's a learning curve for sure. I think a lot of young people are not taught to be invisible, especially in this day and age. I think it's something that we're be allowed to be individuals, and reining that in and really learning how to stand back and let people enjoy the space that they're in. Because I think a lot of people are still uncomfortable in having staff around. I think that's still, especially for a lot of new yacht owners or families with children who have never had nannies before, you're really learning to work around having people in your individual space and how wonderful that can be and how much of a privilege that can be. And at the same time, how different life can be with having staff and nannies and crew members around helping you.
Fantastic, thank you. What do you think we should know as nannies or parents about boats and the different kind of boats that nannies could potentially find themselves on?
So the biggest awareness, I think, as a crew member, we like to share with guests coming on board, nannies, parents, and children, is the safety aspect. So we try and provide a home-like feel, a hotel-like feel. At the same time, a lot of even the surfaces that are around boats can be not as safe as they are in a home. Marble flooring, someone's running in from coming around in the pool and they've got wet feet, and just the extra care. And we do our best, and it's up to the crew to keep our guests and our family members safe, especially with children. But especially in cases we have dangerous stairwells, maybe, that a lot of baby proofing items are not maybe as aesthetically pleasing as people would hope in their, very expensive experiences. And just when we ask for things, and we really try not to ask for much, it's generally to keep you and the children safe. We're really working towards having a fun environment, having the best experience. We want this to be 7 stars. We want this to be so much fun for everyone. And our limits are not because we can't do something or don't want to do something. It's solely for your children being safe and in that being safe, having the best time. We do have medically trained people on board, but nothing beats doctors. And a lot of times we can't have that on board. And so we just want to make sure that everything is safe.
Fantastic. You've already touched on baby proofing. So do you have any baby proofing ideas that you think our audience should be aware of?
So I think what's really great is having nanny cams. I think it really is helpful. If you have the option coming on board a boat and you have choices of different cabins, having children stay in cabins that do not have outdoor access is huge. Speaking to the crew members directly, they'll know the boat best. They'll know what is the safest location for your children. And, if you're having nannies stay with children in the same room, that's a benefit, but also personal space is huge. And we appreciate that. So being right across the hallway, a lot of boats are built in with safety aspects in mind that aren't necessarily built towards children. We have doors that close quite quickly because we want to make sure that they're fire doors. So in case of emergency, they close properly, but that's not always protective for little hands. They can get in the way. And so it's training yourself to be more mindful in spaces that you would expect to be like a home. And unfortunately, we are not as cozy as homes and as familiar as homes. And I think really talking to those crew members, really, the good thing is if you notice something, more likely than not, we can get something within 24 hours to baby proof a space, whether that is aesthetically pleasing or not. If it's tape, making sure drawers don't open when little fingers want to pry them open. It really depends, but we're very happy to create safer environments for children. All it takes is just communication.
And talking about communication, what kind of safety precautions would you recommend families chat to their children about before getting on a yacht?
So I think a really big part is making sure you're visible, making sure that if you go somewhere and you don't see a crew member and it's outside, just let someone know. If you want to go jump in the pool, but a crew member isn't around, just to let someone know. We usually have our own protocols that are in place to protect adults and kids alike, but we don't have eyes everywhere. And as much as we'd love to have cameras, making sure we can see where everyone is, specifically on charter yachts, we're not allowed to. So we can't have eyes everywhere to know where everyone is. If a nanny needs a break and needs a moment, we're always receptive to that. And we always want to be able to assist in that moment rather than closing the door and leaving a child and hoping for the best. Speak to one of us and maybe we can sit down with that child so that you can call a family member or just take some moments to yourselves so that really ideally someone's with a child mostly all the time until they hit a comfortable age for the nanny to say, okay, they can go into the swimming pool and, I don't need to be there.
Right.
So it takes knowing the child that you're with and knowing how trustworthy you feel that they are. And that's age appropriate. It's not that children want to be trustworthy or not, but whether they know, what, if they've ever been on a boat before, don't get close to the edge. Don't go somewhere. If there's a rope, there's a reason saying, we're happy to take you anywhere. You just need to ask.
Right. And also no running probably. And
definitely no running. I mean, it's the same rules, I think, as most pools. We don't want anybody running. Even if a boat is at anchor and you want to jump off the side, ask a crew member. There's always things that are going on that we don't share just because it ruins the experience a little bit. We want to make sure that you don't have to know on a wavy day that stabilizers are out, so it's not safe to go in the ocean. We can turn them off and we're happy to have people swim, but it's just those little things that, yeah, as you said, we don't want children running around, especially with wet little feet. Teak becomes very slippery, running inside. It just, all of those, you'd like to call them common sense things, but I think the experience of a yacht, especially if you've not been on it for the first time, can be quite overwhelming. And there's no harm in, asking, making sure you're reapplying sunscreen. It seems so obvious, and yet you're on the ocean, you're with these reflective properties. UV is stronger, and just hydration, making sure that in that heat, in those shoreside experiences, that the kids are just living their best lives and doing it safely.
Okay, and talking about activities, what kind of activities do most yachts provide that children could potentially use?
So we really like to promote water sports, safety depending on ages, what really works. But, if children are of a certain age, going on inflatable objects and being able to be towed by boats. And, the protocols on every boat are different. In saying that, there's some hard and fast rules that there are if you go to someone's home and they have these items. So if a child wants to go on water sports, making sure that a nanny or a parent is there and happy to be a part of it. Slides are a really big fun part of it. You get to go off the side. You'll have a crew member waiting for you at the bottom, and children. It's a lot of based in water sports. In saying that, usually boats have board games available. We have Wi-Fi, so if kids want to stream, or even if they need to do schoolwork that requires, fast internet, most places have that. Movies, TV shows, the like, if you need a quiet moment inside after running around in the sun all day. And then going ashore in different locations is really a lot of the reasons that people want to go on boats. You get to be in so many different places and see so many different things, and we can bring you to those locations. And a lot of times yacht crew will go with the family or the children just to make sure the location, we do go ahead of time to make sure safety in all sorts of different ways are covered. Security, whether the stone steps are made for toddlers, or if we go to a different location to make sure when getting off the boat, it's safe for children, for nannies, for all sorts of different family members with different abilities.
Okay, thank you. And as head of housekeeping, what would you say is the one thing you find that nannies or parents forget to bring with them?
So it's a myriad of different items, and we certainly try and have backups of everything. But, with yachts, letting us communication. So if you're going to come on board a boat, usually you'll be speaking to a crew member on board, albeit if it's the captain or the chief steward or the head of housekeeping. If you need something and you don't feel comfortable flying with it, we can usually get it ahead of time. But, we have all sorts of different types of laundry detergent, which seems silly, but if you have a sensitive child and you know what works best for them, we're not opposed to using something like that. We try and be very flexible. We want to make sure everybody's comfortable. We usually, depending on the boat, again, have different toys for children, but it might not be the right age range. A lot of people working on boats do not have children themselves. So we can guess at what children at that age really appreciate and like, but it's a Google search rather than having the experience of age appropriate diapers or wipes. If children don't like to or aren't of the age of using just specific cutlery or bottles or glasses, we really strive to have everything, but a lot of children have different needs and special needs that we aren't necessarily equipped for, but we can always try and quickly ship to where we are. But there might be a day or two of
delay.
Yeah. And frustration. And of course that's expected, but I think it's interesting. At the same time, we have so many abilities. We have a lot more limitations than a hotel that's shore-based and has a supermarket or a mall close by. We do not have those same abilities, unfortunately, as much as we'd like to.
Yes. It's hard if you're not at port. I mean, if a boat is moving constantly, it's even harder.
It is. And I think as much as we have the ability to get things in a lot of different places, if you are going to experience a boat and it's in a very remote area, that's not uncommon. And in saying that, communicating ahead of time really makes the experience so much easier for nannies, for kids, for parents, really giving us as much information as possible, even if it seems so minor. Mm-hmm. It's hard to explain to a chef that didn't know there was a soy allergy or a dairy allergy ahead of time. Even our fridge space is limited. Even though we have giant refrigerators, the preparation for chefs is huge. And even bringing food items. I mean, we've worked with people who are gluten-free and they'll bring a suitcase filled with snacks. And of course, we respect that and we recognize that. But if we know 2 weeks ahead of time, we can have them waiting in a little basket for you. It's all about having that conversation, and we want to have that conversation if we can. We're really open to it.
All right. And is there like an unspoken etiquette that, for example, crew members and nannies should have or have?
The biggest is we're all trying to be on the same team. As much as when you come on board, you're still a guest that's staying with us. And we still want you to have the best experience being in this incredible place that you can. I think having a conversation with the parents of what's expected ahead of time, and then relaying that to crew members. We usually have a very strict amount of crew that can be on board. And as much as we want to help in specific areas, our job roles are very specialized. And, I've been in positions where maybe families don't think that nannies are a necessity on board at specific times. And the crew can't give the specialized care and meet the needs of children who, normally have nannies with them. And in saying that, having the conversations with the crew members, sometimes it feels, especially if, you're not used to having staff mind what you're doing and looking after your cabins. We truly don't intend to be invasive. We really want to make it the 5-star experience for every single person included, and allowing us to do that. If I feel like sometimes it feels it's easier to say, you don't need to come in at all. We want to. It's easier to do consistent upkeep rather than once every 2 days, where then we would have to spend an hour someplace, because the expectation, regardless of what people feel comfortable with still remains the same. If parents want to visit their child and the nanny and the child are staying in the same room, the expectation is that it's kept as nicely as the primary cabin. And we need time to be able to do that. We're happy to have the conversations, to work with nannies and work with team members. Hey, you need to be in the cabin yourself for an hour. Just let us know when we come in. Let us know what works for you. Let us know if there's a specific nap time. We want to make sure we're not knocking on the door and waking anybody up. But just that open line of communication, because then we can be that invisible kind of workforce that appears, we know, okay, they're going for lunch. They like to take a long lunch. That's our time to really make the cabin sparkle. Or it's a 10-minute lunch and then it's straight into nap time. We're not going to bother you. We're not going to say, well, we really need to be in here now. It's all that respecting each other's time. And then you get to have that 5-star experience as well, which we really hope for. That's why we bring everyone on board.
So what would you say are some things that nannies or parents could do to help the crew out?
Again, I'm going to go with that open line of communication. It really makes it easier for us to have the most information possible. We work with, depending on the size of the boat that you're on, between 12 crew to 50 crew. And it's all kind of a series of motion. We all want to make sure that everything's going properly. And between us speaking to you so that the deck crew know, this child is too young to go on the slide. Maybe just don't have it out when a child's there, so we don't have to say no, letting us know what the comfort levels are of specific children, of nannies even. Sometimes you don't want to get your hair wet. Sometimes you just don't feel comfortable going on water sports toys for whatever reason. We want to accommodate for that. And then we can set aside time for a crew member to do those things with children, letting us know in advance. Our child loves going to the beach. That's going to be huge for us. And then we can make the most magical beach setup experience. Without knowing those details, we just can't make it as fun and as wonderful. We still will do our best to make it as fun and as amazing, but really the communication and not being afraid to ask. At the end of the day, don't be afraid to ask someone for help. Don't be afraid to ask someone, hey, do you have such and such in the kitchen? Or even, can I come down to the galley? Can I just I know how my child likes to do this. Can I please just assist and do it? And people are understanding. They really are. We really strive for that. And we want to make it as best as possible. And if there's boundaries again on our end, it really is most likely safety.
Okay, fantastic. Is there anything that you would like to add or recommend or share with nannies and families who might be going on a yacht this summer?
Have a great time. Enjoy it. It's a really special experience. And, for parents and nannies, I think, remember that the nannies are also there to have a little bit of fun and allow, it's very hard to turn off, but a lot of staff that come won't ever get this opportunity again, and speak to us about making it special for staff members that you bring. Speak to us about, what you're comfortable with, what dietary, whatever seems so small, or experiences that really seem important to your children, or, we don't like screen time. okay, great. We can really build off of that and really make sure ahead of time. With the chefs, we'll do a cookie baking experience or cupcakes. With the deck team, we can take them out on tender rides. With the interior, we can make all sorts of board games, arts and crafts, really, giving us what your limitations are so that we can grow in so many other different ways to make it fun and safe and as accommodating as possible. If we come on board and no one's told us anything, we're grasping at straws, and we'll definitely still make it fun, but it makes it just a little bit harder.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time, Maddie. It was great to have you on, and we will see you all next time. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. It was lovely to see you again.
Don't forget to subscribe below and let us know if you have any comments or suggestions. Thanks. Bye.